Okay, so welcome, guys. We'll go ahead and do the intro here, just so you're familiar. The browser has blocked your mic and camera.
That's rude.
It's in the Chrome settings, but phone will work. Yeah, he's having an issue connecting. It says the browser's blocked his camera. That's not okay. But that's what you get, Chris, for thinking that everybody's always watching you, man. You have all these crazy settings on the computer.
True.
You know,
but we do need his beautiful face on here. We can't.
We definitely do. Yeah. So he'll be on. Well,
he's definitely on the flagged list, though. That's for sure.
Oh, I'm sure FBI is like
they know.
Definitely.
They know who Chris Waldrum is.
So, guys, welcome to the Formula Cast. Mm-hmm. If you're watching this live, thank you and welcome.
Yeah.
The Formula Cast is a podcast with myself and Justin.
Yes, sir.
And we just talk
about everything.
Yeah.
Right. Well, while we're waiting for Chris, do you want to talk about the last? Oh, never mind. Chris is here.
All right. Well, let's bring him on in. Add him to the stream. Why, hello there, gorgeous.
Hey, dude, 2 for 1. I didn't know I was going to get 2 dudes, 1 Mexican dude. This is great.
Well, hey, man, thanks for joining the cast with us and being a part of this.
Absolutely. Thank you, gents. Sorry for the this happens every time, every single podcast. So
yeah,
anybody watching should be used to this by now.
Yeah, things never go smoothly. I missed you.
Yeah. Missed you, but that's why I'm glad we're finally reconvening and do a little happy hour of supplements, man. I haven't had a good supplement talk in a while, so this is going to be refreshing.
Heck yeah, man.
All right. Well, cheers.
How have things been, man? Because I feel like I've been totally disconnected the past few months as far as like communicating with my besties in the industry other than Justin. How's life?
Good, man. I mean, it's completely understandable. You have so many moving pieces right now. It's obviously setting up the new location, making sure that's sound and successful. That takes a lot of time, energy, emotional energy. But all is good on our end, dude. I mean, we had our second daughter. She's a month and a half now, Sedona. And it's been an awesome experience, to be honest with you. Everything couldn't be better. We're going through the same issues that everybody else is going through with the supply chain, the availability of licensed ingredients and stuff like that. So outside of that, I mean, I'm extremely optimistic. I mean, I never really have a bad day. So I'd probably be the worst person to ask, how's it going? I'm like, fucking awesome all the time.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, okay. So before we go in too further, I have a story to share with you. And then I have a question at the same time, right? So you named your new daughter Sedona, right? And so a family friend of mine said to me before, he's like, told me about Sedona, Arizona. I talked about moving to Arizona at some point or whatever. And he's like, Sedona. And he goes, I promise you, if you take your girlfriend to Sedona, Arizona, she will be pregnant by the time you come home.
Oh, that's it, dude.
Right. So I was kind of wondering, like, where did Sedona's like this really like interesting, like totally different, unique sort of vibe going on out in Arizona. So how did that like inspiration? Because when you said you're naming your daughter Sedona, I was like, that is the most Chris Waldrum thing like ever, and I freaking love it.
Yeah, man. So Sedona, Arizona just holds a special place in my heart. I've been there quite a bit of times, and I'm a pretty big hippie. I believe in a lot of like random stuff and esoteric stuff, and there's vortices there where, supposedly there's these nodal energy centers of the earth that you could go to and feel maybe the Schumann resonance or, just this awesome energy. And you do go there, and I kind of liken it to the geological history there and everything, the sand being rich in iron. So I do feel the energy there. So I've always had a very strong connection with Sedona. And since I enjoyed it so much, that's why we're like, okay, my daughter is the embodiment of that love and this energy that I have. So let's name her that to kind of commemorate it. And yeah, that's a good sap story, man.
How awesome is that?
That is awesome.
Yeah, I love it. Like I said, as soon as you said that what her name was, I was like, man, I already know like what you just said. I was like, I already know that's where it's coming from.
Right. I love it. That's beautiful.
Thanks, man.
So what do we want to talk about? So you have, in the middle of all of this, there's a couple things that have been going on. Not only have you guys been releasing new products and expanding and moving into a new huge warehouse, but also you have the total shit show that the industry has kind of become when it comes to lead times and supply chain and all this other stuff. So needless to say, I'm sure there's a lot on your plate as the boss of Inspired. Good things, but at the same time, a lot of new challenges at the same time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We're in the same position as everybody else. I can't say any worse or any better. Maybe a little bit better because we were, I think, a little bit more proactive going into this than other individuals were. And when I say proactive, it would be like the procurement of ingredients that are notoriously out of stock. We work with a lot of licensed ingredients, and moving forward, a lot of the brands that I help put together or manufacture, I try to tell them to stay away from it because generic stuff is just as good unless there's actual clinical studies on it to back it up. Mm-hmm. There's no point because you're just going to deal with supply chain issues and availability issues. And a couple things that we got hit with this year was Aquamine. Aquamine was a huge one.
Yeah.
Stuff from Futureceuticals, and nothing bad on them, but their inventory management is just one of the worst in the industry, to be honest with you. And I'm saying that from experience because we got hit pretty hard with it, and we still are with one of our products, being the greens using TrueServe. So navigating through that, learning how to be, preemptive with your actions to forego any future complications. And then, the thing going back like 5 years, you learn from your mistakes, but what we're going through right now, nobody could really plan for. And there's not such a formula for it other than trying to fortify other aspects outside of the supply chain just to make sure that your company is sound and going to be successful whenever this whole thing ends. But for us, man, I mean, now we're dealing with the plastic issues, and we've been proactive with that as buying like containers worth of plastics, 25-ounce containers specifically, just for us. And even being that kind of aggressive, we're still having setbacks. That's pushing us. And this is, there's a lot of people that that I've talked to personally that need help manufacturing. They're saying the same thing, 16-week lead times. Yeah. It's just impossible to be able to manage inventory like that or cash flow like that. And it is. And when I started in the industry, lead times were, 3 to 4 weeks, and then it went up to 5 to 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks.
And it's happened pretty drastically. I mean, from what I've noticed, because I've only been in the industry for about 5 years or so total.
Yeah, pretty quick.
But yeah, sorry to jump in, but yeah.
No, I mean, you literally got in at the pinnacle where I think the industry, and it's not, I shouldn't say peaked because it's growing exponentially every single year, but you came in at a time where there's never this much like demand and there wasn't that much supply to be able to fill it. So as we're trying to make up the supply for the demand, we're just having this, this crossroads and a lot of complexities that are coming with it. And now when we have these Chinese manufacturers that have been sent down, or we have polymer shortages, contribute to the plastics, we're dealing with a different situation that nobody, when I talk to like the larger manufacturers, like they could never have predicted this.
Yep.
This kind of out of stock in materials. So, and even like logistically getting something from here to Australia or to here, that time has increased drastically too. So to be able to really set a launch and have it be successful, it's a completely different game now. And the companies that do it and are able to stick to their time frame, like I commend them because it's extremely difficult.
Yeah. So there's something like I know you and I have talked about this sort of thing on Happy Hour, and then just from knowing you, and we talk about the competition, and there's so many brands and things like that. I have sort of like a question for you in this regard. Now, all this stuff has created all these like new challenges and things like that, but do you almost like think it's a good thing, or do you almost like welcome this as a brand that has been around and you do have things together on your end whatsoever? Because we never want to like stifle obviously like new businesses and stuff like that. It's not about that, but this will thin the herd. Like the stuff that's kind of going on is really going to put a lot of pressure on people that are, and you don't want to see businesses fail or anything like that. I know just me asking that, but I think you get it where it's like, this is going to force people to really have their shit together when it comes to managing supply chain and, putting together formulas, and you being ahead of the curve a little bit. Maybe this is a good thing, for guys like you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think more of the aggressive capitalist for sure. But what ends up happening, what's happening right now is you still get the consolidation of materials to companies that have a lot more money. So let's say you work with like Canyon Plastic and somebody's able to place, a 1 million container purchase order. That's priority over my 40,000 unit purchase order. So it is good. And like I said, fortification of a company is absolutely essential. But yeah, you're completely right. It's like this is the first time in our history that we're watching like evolutionary biology on a real-time basis, week over week. You know what I mean? And we saw it with the cataclysmic change to retail last year, where if you didn't pivot into something, you were just going to be consumed by this monster that's been created. And the same thing's happening right now. So I think companies that are really smart, and what we've done is pivot outside, and we're going to get more into the functional food basis, which there's still a lot of availability there, and it's a massive market that's going to grow even more so than the nutraceutical side.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
As long as you pivot, dude, as long as you get up and you're even motivated a little bit, you don't have to be Elon Musk. Like, you're going to be successful, dude. Mm-hmm. You really have to not want to succeed to fail in this industry, you know? So, but you're completely right. Thin the herd, dude. This is Darwinism 101.
Right.
Dude, survive, dude. You go to the Galapagos Island. If you're not a finch with a big beard, you're not going to eat that nut. So guess what? You're fucking dead.
Right? You got a hell of a beard on you, man.
Yep.
Big beak, yeah, big beak. Yeah. Oh man, so yeah, dude, it's a trip, man. It's a lot to take in, but you know, Justin, I know you deal with a lot of brands, so I'd love to get your mindset too, because you and Brady have a way more advanced, I think, business sense than I do. I'm like very street savvy and a little book smart, and that kind of combines into something useful. But you guys are really business savvy, so I'd love to hear some of the input of how you're navigating to get through all this.
Yeah, it's tough. I think one thing that you keyed on, and it kind of ties into something that it makes things difficult these days, because anything that's custom, right? Branding is becoming, you know, maybe like the number one part of everything else, right? Anybody can put together the formulas and stuff like that. So now you have the branding part of it. Now people want to do like custom things. You want to have the cooler labels, you want to have the cool lids and the scoopers and all that sort of stuff. But anytime you add custom stuff, whether it's custom ingredients, you know, on the trademark side of it, or you custom tubs and things like that, you are asking for trouble when it comes to, you know, can we keep this up kind of thing. So for us to see things from so many different perspectives, you know, whether we work with brands that just want to be on Amazon, or whether we work with brands that want to be like this cutting edge, like make everything just super unique and cool. It's like you love to see innovation, you love to see fun ideas, but at this point, like, you can understand why people are like, I'm going to take the safe route and use some bulk, you know, ingredients and go right to Amazon. You know what I mean? Because there isn't that demand for something like a unique experience. So then you have brands that are sort of ahead of the curve, already kind of they're a little bit established, and they're going to get first come, first serve kind of thing. And so it makes it really difficult, because I see so many people, they want to make something that's so like personal to them and put it out there. And now is like not the time to do it. And we have to like break a lot of hearts when they come to us. We're like, you know, ultimately we give our clients like, it's your decision, it's your show. But if you want our advice, don't do this. Like, and I know you kind of deal with the same thing, because people want custom, they want to live and breathe everything, and that's great. But now is a really tough time to do it.
Yeah, that goes towards the whole availability of stuff. I mean, I think when you start to formulate something, you need to look at the availability, and is this going to be something that's consistently on the market? Is it something that's going to come to a bottleneck or supply chain issue? And I'll be completely honest, as Inspired moves forward, we're going to move further away from licensed ingredients, because we do have vendors and suppliers that have identical stuff. You know, it'd be like Prima V and Sheila. You could get the exact same substance, but it doesn't have the branding title. And now it's just like a pharmaceutical company, you know, they have generic stuff, acetaminophen, that's the exact same thing as like Tylenol and whatnot. So yeah, with the people that I move forward with, I'm like, hey, I know it's cool having like all those cool little logos on there, but how about this? You pick an ingredient, I create a fucking logo for you. And then, you know, you still get that customer experience. And what I'm seeing, what I'm thinking that you're alluding to is that coming up with, where'd you guys go? Did you guys leave me? All right. It looks like they left me, but I'll just sit here looking completely stupid until they come back on. Well, it's going to be 10 seconds, 20 seconds of everybody getting to look at my stupid face. Let me send Jacob a text and see how long this is going to go. Thank you for joining the Chris Hour, where you just stare at my stupid face. Sweet. They unplugged their camera. That at least gives us some sort of hope that we could continue the charade of a show that this is. I mean, hopefully they could edit this out because you guys will just.
Okay.
All right.
Are we there?
Did you guys? I mean, was I recorded the whole time? Because that was a solid.
Yeah.
My bad, dude. So it's connected to my laptop, and I moved it so that I would stop like looking. I wanted to at least like look somewhat towards the camera instead of us looking off to the left.
Thank you.
It totally unplugged. So that's my fault, man.
We're back.
Your eyes. Okay, cool.
we can still hear you though. So
yeah, we were watching you and laughing.
Yeah, you held it down really well, man.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
I should have got up in my boxers because I'm not wearing any pants right now.
The Chris Waldrum show, honestly, that should be a thing.
Everybody would like unplug in a second because there'd be at least one offense every verb that I put out there, definitely.
So you were talking about how you are kind of gravitating towards less licensed ingredients, less because like we know there is an element to, because people ask me that question all the time. They're like, are trademark ingredients worth it? And sometimes there's like a quality control aspect to it that does kind of play in. But as we know, like when you mess around with enough of this stuff, it's nothing like there's anything wrong with trademark ingredients. It's a level of security sometimes for companies, but at the end of the day, a lot of times it really doesn't affect the performance or anything like that.
Yeah, I think people look to a level of like credulity. So if you see a trademark logo, somehow that earns validity, and that goes into marketing. You know what I mean? Marketing and actual direct application are completely different fucking universes.
Yeah.
And companies got into this just like the pharmaceutical industry, and they're going to have things that they market and say it's superior when really it's identical to something else on the market. But if there is some sort of consistency with the ingredient itself, and it's not like manufacturers don't test these ingredients before they blend them to make sure that it is what it is, and if there's no mold, spores, or outside toxins inside of there. But that will give some credibility to it too, for sure. That taking anything outside of like maybe like methyl liberin or something, if you're into dynamine. Other stuff like that, like Advantage Z, I like that, but now we replace it with just a standard bitter orange extract, standardized to 30% of the alkaloids, and it suffices. It's a shit. It's 30%. It's the same exact thing.
Yeah.
There's Advantage Z, but it's a quarter of the cost. And with doing so, you're cutting that supply chain issue, and at the same time, you're able to pass the discount down to the customer, or you could get your margin up, your gross margin up with that. So I think that's a smart way to go. And I see a lot of brands now, like if I was to do Inspired over again, I wouldn't, hyper exaggerate or over formulate anything. I'd make something base that was really good, and then sell the company with my message.
Yep.
There's companies that do that right now, and I think people are going to buy you depending on your message, depending on your vulnerability, your sincerity, and just to make sure that you're genuine. That's what brands need to focus on. And outside of that, brands only focus on the formula. The formulas really these days are going to penetrate like 1% of the entire market, and the rest don't give two shits about it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's what we have conversations with people a lot, especially ones that are just getting started. It's like, when you put yourself out on a limb when it comes to like the actual ingredients, it's like, it's cool to sort of flip through a catalog and say, I'm going to put all these trademark ingredients in there. But then, what happens? I tell this story all the time, but people are always like, they send me their pre-workout and they're like, can I get your thoughts about this? And I was like, well, what do you plan on doing with it? Like, it really doesn't matter. Like once you get to a certain tier of a pre-workout, it doesn't really matter like what the ingredients are. Like it really doesn't like there's only so many things you kind of feel when you take a pre-workout. And if you're not going to use DMHA and you're not going to use like some of these gray area or banned ingredients, it's like a lot of this stuff just comes down to the total experience. And I think that like sometimes there's people that in our industry, they kind of crap on that experience, that connection. But as we know, when you feel good, like when you feel good about buying something, say from Inspired, and you feel good about okay, I'm buying something from Chris. I know he puts his heart and soul into it. You already feel good about using the product. You feel good about buying the brand. So you already are going into the gym feeling good about using that product. And that's like, you see people with it's too much on paper kind of thing. That part plays a factor, how you feel about the products that you're buying. It's just like any other industry where it's like, okay, we can give you some ingredients that are definitely going to help your workout, but also we're going to make you feel good we're going to make you feel good about your purchase, and we're going to support that. And then we're going to make you feel good about going to the gym every day. We're going to do post-purchase things. We're going to send you emails. We're going to interact with our customers. We're going to make everybody feel good about being healthier. And we're going to give you a cool product too. So I could not agree more with what you just said, man. There's like definitely a balance that a lot of people need to come back from.
I think people that come from the traditional industry too are the ones that overformulate, or they start looking at the traditional industry of formulation and trademark ingredients, and they forget about the business side of things, which is branding. And, and like Chris is saying, I'm kind of piggybacking off of what you're saying, the branding of a product is, in today's time, is so much more important than the specific trademark of ingredients, and how you portray your brand like story.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, the communication. How do you convey that? How do you connect to people? How do you write it out where it's something digestible, where they can truly assimilate it? And what that leads to, and what you're saying, the experience, it leads to affiliation. If somebody could buy your product and feel like they're affiliated with the brand and now they're part of the team, then they're crushing it. And that has progressed to something even more so, which I think is kind of good, but it could be kind of negative too, is tribalism. And I think Redcon One has done really good with that, creating this modern day like tribalism where the people that are Redcon, they're like fucking Redcon. And another company that does really well with that too, that I see a lot around here, they've done well nationwide now, is Bucked Up Supplements. They've created this kind of culture of tribalism, you know what I mean, which is good for your brand, but not necessarily good for the individual because it creates an obvious bias. Yeah. It's an interesting evolution of what's happening right now, but I think a lot of formulators, when you put something together, you're formulating with your ego and not the best intentions of the customer that's going to be taking it if it's efficacious or actually boosting their performance output. And so when people are showing it to you, like, and I see formulas all the time, they're like, Chris, what do you think? I'm like, I think that's really fucking expensive. Why don't we take it?
I say that all the time. Yeah. I say that all the time.
Wow, that's pricey as shit. Is it going to be efficacious? Yeah. Could it be just as effective with cutting out a couple dollars cost of goods? Yeah. And like, if you did a side-by-side comparison of a good pre-workout these days, and then, the original Jack 3D would smoke all these motherfuckers, dude, even though you got a $20 cost of goods pre-workout with a ton of citrulline, all the other jargon inside there. Like, so it's an interesting field, man. And people that are getting into it, it's much more harder to establish yourself off of message, meaning your ideologies, than coming out with a high cost of goods pre-workout. Because high cost of goods pre-workout is going to appeal to that 1% demographic, so the person feels accomplished. But the broad spectrum that you need to be able to get into to survive is really difficult to penetrate because you have to be confident, and it leads to, like I said, vulnerability. If you're not able to be out there, be real and honest with yourself and honest with the individuals that you're selling to, forget about it, man. You're gonna be done.
You have to be consistent too. I mean, conveying that message once is one thing, and it's never going to gain traction. But conveying it consistently over time, with the same product lineup, I think that's where the message is really, meets the mass market. So
that's it.
You have to have the energy these days, I think, I think there's a lot of people, I don't know, Chris, how much you run into this, like when you're talking to other people and brands and stuff like that, but a lot of people are hesitant to just constantly promote their stuff over and over and over again because they don't want to be intrusive to people. They don't want to feel like, but I'm like, I don't know if that's even possible anymore, to be honest with you. Like, people are so on to the next constantly. I was like, my advice usually for people is don't be afraid to talk about the same thing like every single day, because I was like, you're overestimating how much people are actually paying attention and retaining that sort of knowledge. So it's like, worrying less about formulating the perfect formula, so to speak, and more worried about like, do I have the time and energy to just like market the shit out of this and promote it every single day is more important, like just from what I see. And not that there's not, I mean, we know this too. You see people, there's formulators, you know, like in the space, all they do is look at a few other lines and they pick and choose a couple of ingredients and then they put it out there and that's their new product. So it's like, which that's fine, you know, that's the open label, you know, kind of thing we're going towards. But then, so then since you're not spending any time with that, you have to spend time on getting the message across, like exactly like what you're saying.
Yeah, dude, that's right. Instead of evolution, we're in like the development period.
Right.
Everything starts to become identical. And that's, you know, that's the free market though. You know, you open up to everybody, and if somebody's able to rip you off and be successful with it, then you shouldn't be in the fucking industry.
Yep. We should conduct an experiment, a formula experiment. We should make a product. Well, obviously I'm saying this live, so it won't be much of a double-blind placebo, but pure dextrose flavored. But how well can we brand it and how well can we distribute it over time and see where it goes?
Dude, people discredit carbohydrates so much. It's
I know, and I'm working on a peri-workout supplement right now, and I'm just like carbs and like different kind of you know, peri-workout nutrition ideas have kind of been circulating. But I'm thinking like, what if we were to make the most basic product? And we're not going to do this, but
hey, Celtec, original Celtec.
I mean, dude, you look at it, but look at the marketing and the brand presence that's behind it. I mean, dude, the people, and you got to think like the people like us that actually know ingredients and trademarks make up that, you know, 1 to 5% that you're talking about, Chris. The other 90 to 95% of people, they don't know. Literally, no. And I see it on the ground level every day. People walk in and they don't care what's on the supplement facts panel. They care about the branding and the marketing message that's on the front of the label, which I always say, hey, look, let's look at the label. Let's not look at the marketing, because this marketing wants you to buy the product. But they're like, oh, massive pumps, you know, gain size,
skin splitting.
Yeah. Pumps. It was like aggression. Yeah. You know, they read these trigger words. Yeah. They don't really. Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like that'd be a cool experiment. Like, and then, you know, after a year of pushing the product, you know, stop it and say, hey, this is what we found. This is our findings, like a social experiment. Yeah.
Well, you know, and I'll say this just from personal experience. That's one thing that I always appreciate what Chris does. Like if Chris sends me something to try, he doesn't ever tell me like what's in it or anything like that. He just sends me like a random like baggie and says like, you know, let me know what you think. And I'm like, it's first of all, I trust you obviously, but I think that that's the way to do it, because I could just kind of put this out there because we don't give a fuck what we say on the Formula Podcast. But I know there's a couple of services in this space that talk about education and integrity and all that stuff. And I know brands that have set them up by sending them products that don't actually contain what they say, but they tell them something, and then they go out there and they blurt it out there and they tell all their followers like how awesome it is. I know brands that have sent people products from other companies, and those people have been like, oh, well, your product's not as good as this company, when in reality it was that company's product. So there is a lot of stuff. Shit. There's a lot of stuff that I know about this space where it's a big clusterfuck of information. But I think that that's like one thing I've always appreciated about Chris is he'll just send me something. He's like, I don't know, man, just tell me what you think. And I'm like, you're not gonna tell me anything about the product. Like, but you don't want to have that, you know, you want a real experience coming from it, because, you know, I'll know if I look at a label, I'll already expect something, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think having that kind of like preconceived notion or understanding about the formula could potentially hinder the overall experience to it. Because there's a lot of good formulators out there like Dr. Hector Lopez that could put something together of ingredients you would never think about, and it would have like an amazing outcome, you know what I mean, or amazing impact to it. And then you could over-formulate something where there's a lot of redundancies in there that cancel out each other, and you don't really end up feeling anything. And there's a lot of pre-workouts I've had like that where I'm like, okay, this is literally on paper the dopest pre-workout I've seen. I took it, I'm like, I mean, for the cost of goods, no way. You know, that's completely worthless. Definitely. To go into what you said of companies sending out samples, I thought you were going to go into something a little bit more nefarious. But what I know are companies, and some big ones, that have sent out samples of product that is their product, but they're actually spiked in order to get
action.
Yeah, dude. literally adding in DMAA or maybe like a little bit more Yohimbe if there's not even Yohimbe in there. So you're just like, holy crap, I'm really feeling this, because like a lot of the first customer experience is all superficial. It's just based on this overwhelming sensation of overstimulating yourself, and that's, you know, Muscle Tech freaking crushed it on that aspect, putting you in a ton of caffeine and everything. So a lot of the first, you know, emotional response is just based off of that, dude. You know, this superficial feeling that you get just from whatever.
I mean, the primary example in our industry is making sample packets that are 2 servings instead of 1, and then selling a tub of products that, you know, either are half scoop or 1 scoop, and the actual formula is made to be a 2 scoop formula. And we see it all the time. And, you know, these companies will set up at expos or at even, you know, store events and give out these sample packs. Say, hey, yeah, take the full pack. You're going to love it.
Yep.
Well, they love it. Yeah, because there's 250 milligrams of DMHA per serving. Well, then they come in and like, oh, shit, you know, 50 servings, 40 servings per tub. That's a great deal. Well, not really.
That's why, like, usually, like, I'll say it too when people send me stuff like samples to try. I'm like, hey, the samples were one thing, but let's see how the final product sort of comes out at the same time. There was Chris, I don't know if you've ever heard this. I've been told an urban legend a few times about who's it that does muscle milk? Cytosport.
Yeah.
That at the Arnold, the one year, they were pouring like heavy cream into their samples they were giving out so that they tasted better. So people were going by thinking they were drinking samples of the protein, and they were putting like heavy cream and stuff like that in the samples before they gave them out.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't pass it. Like, just goes back to disingenuous marketing, and unfortunately, that's the majority of what this industry has been built on. You got to think of how this industry initially started, right? It started with a lot of illicit drugs. You know, it started with a lot of steroids. So you have these individuals used to that kind of monetary gain, and in order to, you know, continue that on, you're going to have to find other outlets, and it just takes a lot of the progress and I guess, you know, the steps that we've made into the right direction. These people do stuff. So, and it's weird, man. It's a weird.
It is weird.
And just to clarify, you know, when this industry was in its early stages, obviously I was not a part of it. I was, you know, not even born.
4 years old.
Well, you know, these substances were not necessarily illicit during that time. And also, I mean, there were some. You know, there's a lot of cool stories about certain distribution channels and how they used to send out certain products to stores. I don't know if you've heard this, Chris. We'll talk about it off the radio, but really interesting backstories to how certain distribution channels got started, and I can fill you in on it, you know, after this. But you go to, like, you know, stuff wasn't illicit at one point in time. GHBs to be sold at GHB. Well, you know, and also, you know, packaging up certain substances within tubs of protein and shipping them to stores.
Man,
have you heard those stories?
No, man, I'm just naive to some of the stuff.
Oh, like, man, dude! You know? Like, in the bodybuilding world, like, there's one in particular. I don't want to allude to it too much, but that's how they got started.
I mean, not saying I would do it.
No. I'm not going to say this online. Then again, they're I'm not going to. Nope. Should have an episode just going off on debunking these marketing gimmicks when it comes to labels. Oh yeah, Braden, I agree, man. I agree.
Yeah, and I think that's what I like. Where we're uniquely positioned that we can sort of talk about it. And, you know, you have to be real careful because you don't want to make claims that you can't substantiate. And a lot of this stuff is just like, you know, rumors and stuff like that. And you don't want to, because you can do a lot of damage because it's such a small space. But I know, like, I don't know that. I guess, like, part of, like, what you said, Chris, that is what's interesting is most people that have been around this industry for a while, it is a hardcore bodybuilding, PED using kind of crowd. But now you're starting to see a lot of people gravitate into the health space. So it's like there's a lot of clunky transitions for a lot of brands because they have no idea like what it really, like, when it comes to, like, normal people's health. Like, we know when it comes to PED users and blood work and stuff like that. But what about just the average person kind of coming in? So you're sort of seeing this shift in dynamic. And I think it's what I gave you a lot of credit for in 2019, where you made a lot of changes to your brand to appease the more like everyday like gym goer and the person that's just, rather than like the hardcore like niche market that we kind of sort of been. So it's been this weird transition for some brands, but I think you were an example. They handled it really well.
Thank you, dude. And I mean, it was partially because that was an evolutionary step we had to take, or else we would have been consumed by a marketplace that still demanded DMHA at the time. Yeah. And we gotten away from that before it became anything, bad and whatnot. So we either had to evolve into that space, or, we would have been DOA.
Yep.
So, yeah. And I mean, the good thing is too, is like now people are formulating for the individual and the landscape outside of the gym instead of just the period inside of the gym, which is like everything when I started in this industry was only focused around the workout, Nothing was outside of it to help you live a better life, be more energetic, be better rested, better nourished and whatnot like that. And now we've progressed into that, which is great because now we're talking about the individual experience and not just going into the gym, which getting into the gym obviously is extremely important, but making sure that you're facilitating all your other needs in your body is more important than just going to throw around weights, stimmed out of your mind.
Yeah. And I think that, it's good for your brand too. I mean, now you're not just trying to sell people a pre-workout and an amino product. Now, all of a sudden, if you, come up with something, if you build that brand loyalty, now all of a sudden you got 10 SKUs that people can use all at the same time. And next thing you know, you kind of have a whole thing. One thing I wanted to ask you about too, with all this like transition and all this kind of crazy stuff going on, you brought in a partner. Well, I don't want to say like partnership, but partnerships are tough in this space. You brought in Landon to come into your company, sort of like right as COVID was getting crazy and the supply chain kind of thing. And now you have some new products and stuff like that. I didn't know if Landon's been there for a little while now. So I didn't know if you could talk about like what he's sort of brought to the table for you, a new perspective, kind of helping you through all this kind of crazy stuff. Because I know I have a ton of respect for Landon. He's a phenomenal guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I guess one of the biggest things us lacking with Inspired was having the creative energy at the end of the day to continue to develop new things, to continue to do graphic design. Because after managing sales or just doing, monotonous office work, you're just left with kind of nothing. And having a family, obviously that takes even more emotional energy and creative energy. So with bringing him on, it's helped me out a ton because he's the first person that I've worked with within a company that has the same level, if not more in some areas. He fucking gets it, you know what I mean? And he's a go-getter too. And just having somebody that's competent doesn't really mean shit. It just means that they could get up and sweep their fucking floors every morning. And that's great because at least you have some level of discipline. But being proactive in identifying issues and then formulating a solution is the most important thing. And if you ever work with anybody, make sure they're proactive. Make sure you don't have to like micromanage them. And I'm not a micromanager. I want people I got to work with smart individuals who have that drive and know how to find a solution for the problems that we're dealing with. And the people that I worked with in the past, even if they had a good level of competency, work ethic, showed up on time, they didn't have that kind of like drive and understanding. And it kind of left me a little bit, not necessarily hopeless, but just, are there any other individuals out there that I could connect to? And I wasn't looking for anybody. Landon found me and he was the one that kind of engaged in that conversation. And I was extremely apprehensive because I'm like, dude, Inspired's doing good right now. Like, you know what I mean? I'm going to be able to sell whenever I want and do whatever I want. So I really want to have this kind of engagement into another relationship. And it just so happened that we're like-minded on a lot of different levels. He has his attributes, I have my attributes, and there's synergy within. So it's been great, dude. I mean, this year, if we didn't have a supply chain issue, I could honestly say Inspired would be the fastest growing sports nutrition company in the entire industry by far. So we have a lot of potential right now. We're just being stunted by the availability of everything.
So his sort of like, because that's always like one struggle for any entrepreneur is like, okay, when do you start to bring in fresh eyes to a project that you started this project from scratch and you're very protective of it. You feel like, all of a sudden you have tunnel vision when it comes to your own projects. And then all of a sudden you bring in someone like Landon that maybe is able to like shine a new light on things that you never noticed. But it also goes back, like you have to give yourself credit for that because a lot of people exactly what you said. You'd be like, no, I'm good. Like, we're fine. We're growing, fine. And you get very protective of what you're doing. And there has to be a point where you let go of that. Jacob's kind of gone through that. We talk about delegation all the time, recently, like he puts a lot more faith like into, the team that he sort of surrounded himself with. When I sort of gave up part of what I do to Prady when I brought him in, it's a tough thing to kind of do, but you get this fresh perspective on things, and someone to sort of ease the burden on you and come with these new ideas. It's really like that. I would say a lot of companies I see, that's one of their main issues is they're not willing to do that. Whether it's bring on someone like Chris to see from a visual perspective, whether it's bring on Jakob to maybe do some marketing for you, or bring on like Prady and I to sort of give you some strategy. It's like a lot of people are very hesitant to do that. And I think that that's one thing that constantly I see holds people back from that next step of their business is they're too protective over their original idea that they won't allow it to grow.
Yeah, dude. And to that, I got a couple things to say on that, but 100%. And with graphic design, they always say, like, don't get married to your first design. It's not shit. You know what I mean? So a lot of times you put everything into it. Same thing with musicians and artists. You start into this, you invest a lot of time, and then you're so emotionally attached to it. Even if it's not the best or the most efficient thing, you're attached to it. So if there's outside criticism, you take that to heart and it hurts your feelings, and you end up, putting up a wall and getting defensive. And I think one of the most important things as a business owner is to be able to be receptive of outside perspectives and receptive to constructive criticism and other ideas. And if you're not like that, I mean, yeah, maybe you can go to a certain level, but like you said, there's absolutely no way that you're going to have this endless progression because you've already stunted your growth by your stubbornness. You know what I mean? Your lack of willing to hear outside perspectives. So yeah, dude, I think task delegation, being receptive of outside perspectives, like those two things are massive contributing factors to a business if it's going to grow.
So we can do a little bit of hype for Inspired. We can talk about some things like, because people want to know what products, I know that you have a new FSU, you have a new pre-workout, there's a new Legend that already dropped, you have all these kind of new products. So like what's kind of the state of things with Inspired and with like all this new stuff that people are eager to get their hands on?
Man, so Global, and this is this is like retrospect. Global is going to be launched, 2 months ago. FSU last month. This month we were going to have a digestive kind of product that's super unique. So we have a lot of launches in queue right now. It's just being determined by the availability of plastic right now. Like we have a lot of 25-ounce jars, black plastic 25-ounce jars on order right now that now aren't going to be here till the end of August. So we can't even launch FSU or Global until mid to late August unless we're able to find it from an outside source. And we don't buy our plastics from China just because it's inconsistent. And any brand owners that find a good place, let me know, because we work with a lot of different vendors. Yeah. And, we use custom blow mold or Canyon plastic, and that's what everybody uses inside the States. Yeah. So as far as like future products, we have 4 flavors of our protein that came out just remarkable. I mean, so good. And we work with one of the biggest flavor houses in the nation that a couple other big guys used to, and they knocked it out of the park. So we have those. That's been pushed back because protein just went up like 40%. So you're going to see a lot of brands just completely pivot away from protein in general, which I think isn't the worst idea. But if you have it and you have your base that consumes it, even at a low rate, you still need to have it just so they don't go to optimum nutrition, just to be able to have customer retention. So outside of that, we have BBD. BBD is going to be launching supposedly in August, as long as these black jars get here. I mean, we have all the materials on order, and is that for the US or just Australia? Oh no, just the US. The US. Okay. So BBD will be coming, and I think that's helped us to be able to get our cost of goods down now. When we were using a third-party manufacturer or co-packer for everything, now we're working directly with Glambia or these suppliers, order in mass quantities for ourselves, just so we have it allocated for future runs, which means we're going to be cash broke in some circumstances, but we have so much raw materials that when we do get these plastics and once it gets going again, we're just going to have a tidal wave effect throughout the industry. So BPT is going to be a good one. We're going to have the Phoenix Ember come out. We're going to have a non-stimulant Ember, which is just like, I know you're going to love this formula because I spent a lot of time putting a really cool non-stimulant fat burning powder. We have different like gut health stuff. We're going to have a series of gut health stuff, different steps that you take depending on the severity of your microbiome. If you have a leaky gut, if you have intestinal issues and whatnot like that. And that's kind of going to be our big focus for the remainder of the year, really, is just intestinal health, the microbiome. How could you really get bacteria diversity inside of your stomach? Because what's happening with these outside like toxins, it'll start to destroy all colonies of certain type of bacteria. And then you won't have, all the flora that your stomach needs just to have a healthy immune system. And then you see all these autoimmune diseases and whatnot. So that's kind of going to be my crusade for the rest of the year, is really try to identify the root cause of a lot of issues in society with health, even like mental wellness starts in the gut. So we have some really cool things coming out with that. And then we'll end the year with some pretty unique, I wouldn't say seasonal, but new flavors that are coming out for a protein, for amino, for Ember, for the entire line.
Awesome. So, I know everybody's excited. Well, one thing I could go on a whole nother tangent, but one thing you said, gut health is such a hot button topic where people are just sort of throwing products out there to appease. Now everyone thinks that they're overweight because of gut health and all that sort of stuff. So there's a big rush for it. But one thing that you said that was really critical, there's some products that sort of go in there and like carpet bomb your entire digestive system, right? But like, there's some ingredients that are out there and some things that people are doing that basically, this phage technology can go in there and sort of take care of just say the bad bacteria and leave the good bacteria alone. That's pretty exciting stuff. That's something that I know you're a big fan of. Leviathan will just release his GI support product.
Incredible formula, by the way.
That was one of the coolest things about that. I was like, you see that the capabilities to help people in their daily lives. We just have to sort of like get them to pay attention to that stuff rather than that, the kind of thing that goes on out there where people are just appeasing, to the marketing and the buzzwords and things like that.
Yeah. You got to get away from taking probiotics just to help people not be constipated, because if you talk about gut health, you think that's going to help you poop, like psyllium husk. You got to get more into the immune system response, the neurological benefits that you get from having a better gut, really just your entire fucking body. If you could assimilate vitamins, minerals, nutrients more efficiently, you're probably going to be more healthy. You know what I mean? So
so now that you said that, that's one other question I do have for you about product wise. You mentioned, because we've talked a lot about nootropics and brain health and things like that, and you mentioned a project that you were working on a while ago. Is there anything new with that when it comes to that direction? Anything you can talk about?
So that's going to be a standalone line within itself. That's just going to be directly targeted towards neuroplasticity, building up neurons, helping neurogenesis happen, that kind of aspect. So that won't be Inspired, maybe like a sister company or something like that. But all that got pushed back, to be honest with you, with exactly kind of what's happened. And I launched a new brand and we don't have everything to be able to facilitate the growth, and it's just dead in the water.
Yep.
That's what happened with Anastasis. Like, we just launched it. It did well first month online, on Amazon, retail, because I have a lot of awesome partners. And then we just didn't have the, capacity or the team to really build that. So I don't want to do that again. Do something, people get stoked on it, and they're like, whatever happened to it? Because to me, I learned a lot, but it's a big L, and I just, can't go through that.
Right.
So I have one more thing. Is there anything you have?
No, man. I'm just looking at his beautiful face.
I know.
I'm trying not to stand a trance.
I missed it so much. So I have one.
Is it in regards to what I think it is?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So I have one last thing, and it's kind of important, and I understand, but if we could have a Chris Waldrum birthday party in South Carolina in December, I think that would be really like it just wouldn't be the same without you here, is all I'm saying.
I'm not gonna lie, I held a poll on my close friends on Instagram the other day, which is about 75 people. Chris, I would have added you, but it was about you. It was 99.9% of people said, yes, Chris Waldrum should come to the TNS Christmas party to celebrate his birthday. I was thinking about changing it to the TNS Chris Waldrum birthday.
Yeah, the Fresh Chris TNS bash.
Yeah, like Matt Fresh Chris. We'll just call it that.
Yeah. So you know, I mean, I don't know like what your thoughts are about that, but you know.
Also, Chris, like we've expanded into a new market now. There's a lot nicer places in Greenville, South Carolina, where we can put you guys up in the entire family. I mean, I'm not just saying. I mean, I'm not just blowing your head. Like, I'm not saying that. It is a bigger, much bigger city.
Yeah.
We stayed at the Hilton, dude. I thought it was great. I mean,
I stayed there all last summer. So
the Hilton's nice. Wait till you stay in a hotel with the pool on the rooftop.
Okay, that sounds pretty.
And there's a bar up there, and that's also where the party's held. So you can just walk right up from your room.
I mean, that sounds fantastic. Now, yeah. Whenever you said the date, I was just like, "Don't be that weekend. Don't be okay. It's that weekend. I don't know what to do." But
you know what? I might be able to reschedule it just for Christmas.
No. Let him go. There was a butt in there. I heard a butt in there.
But we might just go maybe like because we wanted to do Christmas in California and spend it like on the beach and whatnot like that. So
it's Christmas.
Sure, but like, it is Christmas.
Jesus
After
Christ.
all, how did we miss that?
It's his party, even if he's not there.
It is the Christmas party.
It's almost like he'll end up on the banner this year, just his face.
We can't miss Chris at the Christmas party.
No, we might. Yeah, dude. I want to come out, man. I just have to look at the schedule. But believe me, whenever you said that date, I was like, motherfucker, I'm gonna have to reschedule everything and mix it around. But if I can be there, because I missed this last one, and that was just like heartbreaking too, because I get the serious case of phone where I'm just sitting around. I'm like, hey, Isaac. Oh, no, there's no Isaac. I
mean, to be honest with you, man, the TNS Greenville grand opening was not – I mean, it was a party, but also, like, it wasn't really made to be, like, an industry-inclusive kind of thing. Like, I wanted –
a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, it was more so work for me. And I kind of – last week around this time, I started missing the TNS 2-year party that we had. And I was like, damn, like I really should have tried to throw one this year because all the memories pop up on Facebook, on Instagram. It's like, oh, dude, like the video of me hugging him with my 360 camera. That was like that's what initiated all of it.
Right.
So, dude, if there's anything we can do to get you out here, let me know. Like we'll make it happen.
No, definitely, dude. I appreciate it. And trust me, you guys are priority, dude. I think about you all the time. And I think that's reciprocated. We could have a circle jerk all day long and I'll be stoked about it. You know what I mean?
Perfect. All right, man. Well, we're about out of time, usually where we shove off about an hour. So you just stay in touch with us and let us know what's going on. And
let us know when the greens are ready because my customers are like beating the shit out of me.
It's true.
Every week.
It's a big deal here.
So – but
they just shipped to us today, so I have tracking, so I could actually just send you tracking. We could just,
you know what, man, we need to work out something to where, and I probably should say this off the record, but I'm not going to. We need to work out something where they can just direct ship to me, and I'll just pay you directly because they're an hour away from me.
Dude, so we did that with accounts that would do like a pallet and whatnot, and
I would do a pallet of greens. I'm not gonna lie.
No, but they started complaining about it. And I was like, you just fucking palletizing, bro. We're paying for the transit.
And the thing is, I've driven up there before to pick up orders.
It.
Like I would drive up.
I know how to run one of those.
Dude, I know.
But yeah, anyway, let me know, man. Chris, we will always support your products and your amazing formulas. So we love you, brother.
We love you.
Dude, I love you guys. Thank you so much for the time. Everybody watching, love you. Appreciate you. Until next time. Later.